It is 12 noon, December 2nd, 2024. This is a regular assembly meeting of the Petersburg Borough Assembly. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Jay,
Here.
Bob,
Here.
Rob,
Here.
Donna. Here. James,
Excused.
Mark,
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Valentine couldn't make it because he flew to Sitka instead of Petersburg this morning. It's now time for the voluntary pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on today's agenda is approval of the November 18th, 2024 Assembly meeting minutes. I'd entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes? If not, everybody in favor of approving those, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those meeting minutes are now approved. Item 4, amendment and approval of the meeting agenda today. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it was presented to us today.
So move. Second.
See any amendments? So all those in favor of moving forward with the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to item 5, public hearings. There are none. There are no bid awards. That brings us to item 7, which is persons to be heard on items on today's agenda. So, Mr. Warhatch, you'd like to speak first because you have to go catch a plane?
Is this on? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Max Warhatch, and I'm a commercial salmon fisherman here in Petersburg. I'm speaking today to voice the commercial fishing industry's support of a resolution to oppose Board of Fish Proposal 156, which would cut chum and pink salmon production by 25%. Hatchery production has long been an important element of the viability of the 74 gill netters, 53 seiners, and 63 trollers, processors, and support businesses in our community. Petersburg has been described as a town that fish built, and I believe that to be true. I would like to see it continue as a vibrant fishing community that produces a tangible product that brings money to the town. As of now, our greatest export is seafood products. Without those products, the only thing leaving town on a barge will be our garbage. This proposal, in my opinion, should not even have been accepted by the Board of Fish as a proposal, as the process is supposed to allow for the consideration of a new regulation or alteration of an existing regulation. This proposal does neither. This proposal offers nothing more than a directive asking the Board of Fish to go beyond their scope. The directive appears to be arbitrary, giving no evidence at this point what a 25% reduction would actually achieve. I think it's important to understand that the proponent that submitted this proposal lives in Fairbanks, a place as far as can be gotten in the state from a coastline. There will be no impact there, only to the coastal communities that rely on salmon for their livelihood, recreation, and subsistence. Should this proposal pass, the impacts will go far beyond commercial fisheries. While most sport and subsistence fishermen don't rely on chum and pink salmon, production of those species pays the bills to operate a hatchery. The most expensive fish to raise, king salmon and coho, very sought after sport fish, will likely be a casualty of cost-saving measures by Sarah, NSRA, and DIPAC. Hatchery production is permitted by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, a science-driven agency dedicated and directed to manage our salmon resources sustainably through the best available science. Should science indicate that there should be a reduction, I am confident that the department would reduce permitting, and they would not do it through the Board of Fish, as this is not the venue for it to happen. While taking a stand on the Board of Fish may be outside what the borough normally does, your duty is to the well-being of this community. A resolution opposing Proposal 156 is definitely in the best interest of this community, the people that live here, and the region as well. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Warhatch. Is there anyone else in the room that has items that are on today's agenda that they would like to speak to? Just please come to the microphone, state your name, who you represent. And I forgot to mention, there is a 5-minute time limit.
Hi, this is Micah Klein. I live at 1101 Odin, and I just had, there was this packet was huge that came out on holiday weekend for a noon Monday meeting for people to look over and ask questions or anything. The most notable thing that I found of interest about the Skylark Park appraisals was that the property appraisal for the market value came in drastically different from the assessed value, and I've never seen it so opposite in terms of those two. Like usually there's a little bit of a correlation, and it just seems pretty wildly different. I've never seen that before. And I'm not questioning, I mean, there was a lot of information of why they came to that conclusion. It's just wanted to be noted that it was odd in case there's a lot of people that may not have seen that information, because it was a 239-page packet. I mean, like the two lots next to my home were a market value is $14,000. Had I known that, not just making a guess on assessed value, I probably would have bought those years ago. But that being said, there's a lot of unanswered questions going forward, so I just really want to ask the borough manager and the assembly to do their due diligence in answering unanswered questions that people have, because this is a new ordinance that was put in place directly for this application, and it's going to set a huge precedent the way the business is conducted. So I just want to encourage everybody to do fair and responsible business on behalf of the applicants and the community.
Thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak to items on today's agenda? Now is the time to do so. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 8. Persons to be heard on items unrelated to today's agenda. Same thing, there's a 5-minute time limit.
Yeah, hello, my name is Joshua Adams. I'm a local resident here. I own 2 properties in Petersburg. And I'd like to start with a question. Why don't we have a judge in Petersburg? Magistrates are not judges. Anyone? I brought this up before. Petersburg has had a judge almost since Alaska became a territory. That's more than 100 years. 4 years ago, it was stolen from us, illegally taken. Why don't we have a judge? Anyone looked into it? I mentioned this a few meetings back. I never got a response, so I don't know. But let me spell it out for you guys, okay? Aside from the obvious, having a judge in Petersburg is important to the citizens. It's a valuable resource. It means that in order to have a day in court, we don't have to leave Petersburg, which is costly to citizens and the municipality. It's also $1 million roughly in taxable revenue, okay? You guys keep raising our taxes, so I just thought I'd bring that up. That's $1 million in taxable revenue. That's the first question. I don't know, does anyone have a response why we don't have a judge in Petersburg? It was lost in May of 2020. You know where it went? It went to Ketchikan. Ketchikan had 3 judges. Now they have our judge as well. How many judges do they need? We need at least 1, okay? Ernie Haugen fought for 2 years to get a superior judgeship in Petersburg. For 100 years or so, we had a district judgeship. We don't have anything now. You guys let that slip through our fingers. The next question is, what are you guys going to do when Singley Alley falls apart? The boardwalk I'm referring to. That patchwork of patches, plywood, what have you. It looks like it's pretty rotted by now. I came up with a solution, and I left several emails, held a meeting. Not one of you went to the meeting. I wonder if you're expecting to raise our taxes when you replace those boards, or just let them sag. I don't know what the solution is here from you guys, but I have a solution. It's called federal grant money. But guess what? We're not eligible for that federal grant money because we're not a certified local government. Anybody know what that is? It was in the email. It was also at the meeting. Anybody? You guys know what that means? Let me spell it out for you again. It means money for Petersburg. Lots of money, for one thing. It also means putting us on the map. It means free training from OHA. This all comes down from a legislation from 1966 called the Historic Preservation Act. I'd like to start a historic commission that makes Petersburg a certified local government, and that's money for Petersburg. It's money for historic projects specifically. It deals with our history, and Petersburg has more historic structures per capita than any place in Alaska. We've got a lot, and those funds they're dedicated to CLGs. Haynes is going to become a CLG next year. Nome is a CLG. Ketchikan is a CLG. Juneau is a CLG. Skagway is a CLG. Of course, the old capital, the Russian capital, Sitka, is also a CLG. The HPC program for CLGs started in 1980. Juneau was one of the first municipalities, if not the, to begin with it. But I'm just shocked that Petersburg is not considered this option yet. There's very little cost to it. It requires a staff time of about maybe 10, 20 hours a year, maybe 1 or 2 staff members to act as a public liaison. But the rest of it is up to, the committee, the commission. Anyway, that's what I had to say. Food for thought. I'm surprised none of you went to the meeting. None of you have emailed back. This is money. And a last word, if you guys are going to raise our taxes to fix Singley Alley, which you'll have to at some point, don't raise my taxes. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else in the room that has items unrelated not on today's agenda that they would like to speak to at this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward to item 9, boards, commission, and committee reports. There are no reports there. Next item, 10, consent agenda. There's 2 items there. We'll handle them separately. First one is a bond counsel for the 2025 GO school bond. Approval to hire Cindy Cartledge of the JDO law firm for $25,000 plus costs as bond counsel for the borough for the 2025 GO school bond approved by the voters at the October 1st, 2024 municipal election. So I would entertain a motion to approve that request.
Second.
Motion been made by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Lynn. Any discussion? Member Marsh.
Where are we gonna get the money? Was this included in the $400,000 that we allocated to the school already, from our reserves?
So,
Finance Director Tao.
sure. So the school bonds that we're going to issue by having this bond council, that 3.5 million is going to pay for this.
So it comes out of the loan amount?
Yep.
Already?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this issue? Clerk, call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
That item passes on the consent agenda. That brings us now to the 420 retail marijuana store license renewal. The 420 has applied with the Alcohol and Marijuana Control Office, AMCO, to renew their retail marijuana store license. The AMCO has determined the application to be complete. A local governing body may protest the renewal within 60 days of the notice that the application was filed. I'd entertain a motion to approve this license renewal.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Lynn. Is there any discussion on this item on the consent agenda? Member Stanton Gregor?
Yeah, just a clarifier for those who might be listening at home. The same would apply to a liquor store license renewal. Any protest by a local government would not be on an ethical line, but would be on if we saw problems in the application that the state would have missed. I forgot what the exact wording is, but that's a summary. That's all.
Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob, Rob,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, report of other officers, Petersburg Medical Center update. Petersburg Medical Center CEO Hofstadter will update the assembly on the medical center activities. Mr. Hofstadter.
Oh, good afternoon. Bill Hofstadter, Petersburg Medical Center CEO. Submitted my report and just have a couple of highlights here. First is I want to thank the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Admiral for coming to Petersburg a few weeks ago to recognize Petersburg response to the helicopter crash last year. It was a nice, genuine, sincere response, and it ended up becoming a debrief with our staff, and it just, listening into, the response was just a reflection of the effort and, response of our staff that came to help and assist in that event. So, received the plaque for that. It was, really, it was just a nice gesture from the Coast Guard. Second thing is our work session is established with the Borough Assembly on January 27th, so that we confirmed that with the board. If you have items that you want me to put on the agenda or work through or prepare or have subject matter experts, please let me know in advance and I can do that. We are experiencing some of the aging in our facility. We had a burst pipe that right over our intensive care unit inpatient bed a few weeks ago. It was quite the scramble. It's just alarming. We were able to resolve that. Thankful to our facilities for coming in and working on a Friday afternoon at 4 to 6 p.m. So that was, we'll intend on seeing probably more of that as the facility ages. Last week was a nice Thanksgiving for our long-term care residents. We had about 70 between our 70 guests and our residents. We really want to thank our nutrition services staff for putting a fantastic meal on. We had great volunteers providing music and serving staff, and our long-term care staff in general putting that event on. It was quite a wonderful experience. So really want to thank the effort behind that. And lastly, just looking forward to a legislative session this year. So gearing up for strategy and advocacy for that. All right. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Hofstadter today? Thank you, Mr. Hofstadter, for
Thank
your
you.
report.
Yeah.
Next item on report of other officers is U.S. Forest Service update. Acting District Ranger Case couldn't make it today, so if anybody wants to see her report, it's on the agenda. I've read through it. As main topic I saw was maintenance work on the West Point cabin in Portage Bay this summer, so it will be closed for a period of time. So that brings us to the Blind Slough Owners Dam Safety Plan, and Utility Director Hagerman will present information about the Blind Slough Hydro Owners Dam Safety Plan to us. So, Mr. Hagerman.
Hello. So this presentation is a part of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's guidelines. They call them guidelines. They're really regulations and recommendations to us. I'll try to make this quick. It's pretty dry, but it is something that should happen, a little presentation to the Assembly every year. You as the owners of the facility are ultimately responsible for it, and I'm here to tell you what we're doing as a department to help you with that responsibility. Next slide, please. So we're going to cover a few things. We'll talk about, excuse me, the variety of plans that the borough has to provide for FERC. The purpose of the Owner's Dam Safety Plan. We'll go over project description, talk about responsibilities for dam safety, training for dam safety within our department, communication and reporting, record keeping, improvements of the facility, and audits. Next slide, please. So FERC does require us to jump through many hoops with our dam. We have an emergency action plan that helps to guide us if we ever do have a major issue with the dam at Crystal Lake. We have a dam safety surveillance and monitoring plan, which guides us on what we need to look at throughout the year, monitoring the condition of the dam and making sure that it's operating as intended and safely. We have a public safety plan that is a plan that deals with all of the features that are basically open to the public. The trail that goes up to the dam is the primary focus of the public safety plan. And we have the Owner's Dam Safety Plan, which is what we'll talk about today, and talks about our responsibility to operate this facility in a safe manner. Next slide, please. So Crystal Lake Dam is a high hazard dam because of the potential for loss of life. If we have a rupture or a failure of the dam, there are the homes at Crystal Lake Hatchery and the hatchery itself, as well as the Lions Loop picnic area that people can be recreating at. And if there's a failure, that would put those folks in harm's way. So the plan, the owner's dam safety plan, recognizes the special responsibility that the borough has to make sure that the dam is operated in a safe manner. Next slide, please. We always start with a project description. The Crystal Lake Dam is at elevation about 1,294 feet. It's a 34-foot high, 200-foot long rockfill dam with a concrete face on the upstream side, which is also covered in part with a 1/4-inch thick aluminum plate. And there's a 30-inch aluminum wall on top of the dam crest. There are no gates on our spillway. It's ungated. If the lake fills up to spill, it spills. The reservoir itself, we have probably 5,200 acre feet of storage. This is basically the top 20 feet of the lake that we can use. Surface area is 250 acres. I said the elevation is 1,294. Get the power to the water to the powerhouse through a 4,600 feet long steel penstock, 20 inches diameter. We have one powerhouse after last year's project that generates 1,757 kilowatts at its best efficiency and up to 2,100 kilowatts at its peak. And so other facilities that are the focus of, safety focus of this project include the hatchery, the staff residences, and the picnic area. Next slide, please. So these are just some pictures of the facility itself. This, of course, is the dam. This is the valve house. The penstock heading down to the powerhouse is here. The spillway is on this side. Again, no gates there. This side has the concrete and aluminum facing. Next slide, please. Close-up picture of the upstream side. This is the aluminum, the parapet wall, as we call it. It's on top of the crest. This is a remote operated camera that we can monitor activity up there and conditions at the lake. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the spillway looking downstream. So this edge right here, that is at elevation 1,294. Water gets above that, and then it spills down this direction and around the dam. Next slide, please. Another picture of the spillway. This is at the bottom of the hill. So this is the powerhouse, the active powerhouse. This is the 1920s powerhouse. Still has the unit in there, but it's been decommissioned as of last year. And this is the Blanche Sluice substation, which takes the 2,400 volts that we generate in this building and steps it up to 24.9, 14.4 kilovolts that we use in our distribution system. Next slide. This nice aerial view of, again, the powerhouse. It's active, substation here, penstock heads up the hill here. This pond serves to feed the hatchery with water if the facility is down for any reason. There are pumps right here, and Crystal Creek enters at this end of that pond, the natural drainage from the lake. Okay. So responsibility for dam safety. The assembly is basically the owner of this facility. We've got a little org chart here. My department, Power and Light, is the operator of the facility. My job as the utility director also serve as the chief dam safety coordinator. And we we contract with a chief dam safety engineer who must be a licensed professional engineer with a number of years of experience to qualify for that position. And then the PMPL staff is the people that carry forward the plan to keep the dam safe. Next slide, please. So, dam safety training is an important aspect of this plan. When we have new employees that are going to be responsible in any part for this, we talk about the FERC license, so they understand that. We go over the Dam Safety Surveillance and Monitoring Plan, also known as the DSSMP. We talk about the Emergency Action Plan, the EAP, the Owner's Dam Safety Plan, of course, ODSP. The SCADA system and alarms is a big part of making sure that everything's safe. We monitor the dam's condition, lake elevation, and the alarms notify us if there's an issue. And of course, operating the actual facility is part of that training. The Emergency Action Plan, we have an annual seminar in the department where we go over the aspects of that Emergency Action Plan and how to respond if there's an issue. We have annually, we have a dam breach warning system test and evacuation drill. It's an unannounced test where we activate the alarms and time the evacuation from the hatchery area. All staff are trained in CPR and AED, and other dam safety training from industry sources is made available as needed. And starting this year, there's going to be an annual ODSP review with the assembly. Talking about communication and reporting. So my position, the CDSC, is responsible for reporting and communication in this plan. My staff helps me out with that. We do consult with the CDSE, the safety engineer, on an annual or a regular basis. Currently, our CDSE is a gal that has many, many years of experience, has done some of the third-party safety inspections for us in the past, and knows our facility fairly well. The CDSE does come through town every year in conjunction with an annual dam safety inspection by FERC to keep the CDSE up to speed on what's going on and the condition of the dam. We have an alarm notification system that has recently been bolstered that will, if we have an issue with the dam, a dam breach, or the level gets too high, it's in place to call, text, and email myself and other team members so that we can respond if we're not already aware. The Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, SCADA, monitors the equipment of the dam. We have a fiber optic cable that goes up the mountain to the powerhouse, and so we can monitor the aspects of the dam up there remotely. The chief operator on our staff takes care of the inspections, the quarterly inspections and annual inspections, and maintains the documents. We will send out public education as needed via the local media, on our website and social media accounts. And we do have signage in place at the Blind Slough picnic area explaining some of the aspects of the EAP and what to do if you hear the dam breach siren that is emanating from the hatchery area. There are also signs pointing people to the evacuation route and the safe area to be if there is a dam breach. Record keeping, my office is responsible for that. We keep all our records in the power plant across the street. Inspection reports for correspondence and plans and drawings are all maintained and some back to the 1920s. And when possible, we back up that information on the borough servers. We do strive to continually improve the facility and the safety of the facility. This is a number of things that we've done in the last few years to help with that aspect of it. The major upgrade last year was a huge step forward for us and will really be a good improvement to the facility for decades to come. Go ahead. Next slide. And as this ODSP is a living document, we review it annually. to make sure that it's up to date and, is effective. The CDSE and my staff, perform that review. The safety engineer is consulted as well. Any changes to the plan, we have to submit to FERC by the end of the year. And then every 5 years, we have to contract with an outside consultant to review and audit our ODSP and make sure that it's up to snuff. So the owner's dam safety plan does serve to maintain a safe condition of the dam. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions from Mr. Mayor, or Member Lamb?
I have two questions, Carl. The first one, when we redid the penstock and pulled the turbines, et cetera, out, did FERC put any additional requests on us for reporting, et cetera, after we got done with that?
No, there were no additional requests. We have a pretty extensive reporting list as it is.
The second question is our SCADA system we have on there. What's our backup? If we have a failure on that SCADA system, what's our backup?
Well, it's really physical monitoring at this point. There is no backup SCADA system. If we have, for instance, if the fiber optic cable fails or is broken between the powerhouse and the dam, we have to report that to FERC as an issue, as a dam safety issue, work on repairing it as quickly as possible. And we will, depending on the circumstance, if the lake is not at spill condition and there's no rainfall coming down, everything's stable, then we'll try to get up there every few days to check on things. If the lake is full and spilling and it's like it is today, raining hard on snow, then we'll try and get up there at least daily to get a look at it and make sure everything's going in the right direction.
So a kind of a follow-up on that. So you are visually inspecting this as well, rather than just relying on the cameras to give you information?
Yes, well, we do rely on the cameras extensively.
Sure.
And the camera that we have that I pointed out on the photo is a really nice camera. It's we can zoom in on just about any feature of the dam, and if we see something that looks a little off, we can take a closer look. But at least quarterly, we're up there for an inspection that's documented for our records. And if conditions warrant, more frequent, we do go up.
A second question is regarding the spillway, are there erosion problems? Or how do you alleviate that or mitigate that possibility of erosion if you get excessive amounts of rain?
Well, we don't always spill. We actually spill very rarely. And so you have to have water running to have erosion. And even when we do spill, there's enough riprap below that spillway, large rock, to prevent any erosion. There is seepage that comes through the dam continually. It's a rock-filled dam. The concrete face and the aluminum facing was supposed to help resolve the leakage, but it really didn't. So we monitor that seepage quite a bit. That's actually more of a focus for us than erosion on the spillway. If there's turbidity in the seepage, then we know something is changing in the dam. Good news is that I've never seen any turbidity in that seepage, and we're very confident the dam is stable and working as intended.
Thank you, Mr. Hagerman, for your
Thank you.
report. That brings us to the mayor's report. I'll put the seeking letters of interest first. Petersburg Borough is accepting letters of interest from citizens who wish to serve the community by filling one of the vacant seats on the following borough boards until October 2025 municipal election. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board has one vacant seat. Planning Commission has one vacant seat. Letters of interest may be submitted to Clerk Thompson at the borough offices located at 12 South Nordic Drive by sending information to Post Office Box 329, Petersburg, Alaska, 99833, or by emailing to dthompson@petersburgak.gov. Another item I put on the mayor's report today is just, people listening or and people in the audience. There's been a discussion going on with the cruise line that frequents Petersburg since August, American Cruise Lines. And we've been discussing the possibility of a dock in Petersburg for them to use. And it's important for everybody, in my opinion, to keep up on, the progress on this. Right now, we're at this stage where there's been negotiated talks with American Cruise Lines. American Cruise Lines and the Petersburg Borough have approved expenditure to get a conceptual drawing of this facility. There's been 3 or 4 conceptual drawings done by PND, Petrofish, Nottingham, and Drage out of Juneau. So, and now they're trying to work up a cost. But as this moves forward, the public, I hope, is involved, but there's a little committee working, and we'll meet with American Cruise Lines, will be the manager, remember Stanton Greger, myself, harbor master, just to discuss, the steps moving forward. I actually asked for this conceptual drawing so we can actually see the impact, if there's gonna be one, on the surrounding area, the shipyard, the Coast Guard dock, et cetera. So that's basically where we're at now. We're waiting for P&D to come back with cost estimates. At this point, it doesn't sound like the borough has money to put towards this endeavor. So from what I've read so far to date is that if American Cruise Lines decides to build this, if we agree to let them build this, and then they would own it and have control over how it was operated. This dock, for people listening, is gonna be, if built, will be at the end of Dock Street, where the Petromarine fuel dock is. Petersburg owns the pier that accesses the Petro fuel dock. Another reason I brought this up is, you hear conversations from other communities. I'm gonna use Sitka for an example. Was a resident that grew up here in Petersburg, lived in Sitka most of her adult life, had a business, and the amount of tourism that Sitka ended up getting, or gets now, they actually closed down Main Street. So I think that's another discussion that the public has to have at some point. And I would personally like some kind of a survey or something done so everybody from the public can have input on that as to what level of tourism we want in the future in Petersburg. So just a heads up about this American Cruise Lines, have no timeline. I've talked to the manager a little bit when we'll get estimates from P&D, but I would imagine before the end of the year. So, any
Within a month or
questions?
2, we should have pricing on it.
Yeah. And then we'll move forward from there. Yeah, and P&D plans on coming to town and giving a presentation, I believe. And American Cruise Lines will probably have a representative there, and probably the manager, maybe myself and the harbor master. So.
Yes, sir. That was the plan, was when the conceptual drawings were done and we had pricing, if there was still interest in moving forward, to bring them here to get, conceptual drawings available for the public to look at, and then have basically a joint work session with American Cruise Line, P&D in the assembly to kind of talk through it. And, again, is there interest in moving forward, or is we're done with the exercise kind of thing?
See if there's still interest when there's a estimate on the
Correct.
different proposals. So that is basically it for my mayor's report. That brings us to the manager's report. Manager Biesbrook.
Thank you, sir. The borough's winter maintenance routine is in effect, and with plowing and ice control as conditions require, just keep an eye out for sanding trucks and plows. Be careful. Martin and his crew replaced a leaking hydrant at the intersection of 3rd and Casino. Hydrant that we removed the old hydrant. It'll be repaired and put aside as a spare. Motor Pool Shop's new heavy-duty tire machine arrived. We're working on getting it installed. The new machine will greatly speed up the changing of truck and heavy equipment tires, which until now were being changed by hand. The FY26 motor pool vehicle inspections are complete, and we are presently consulting with departments that have one or more recommended replacements on the horizon. The recent cold weather has resulted in some broken meter bases, so customers are reminded to check and protect water services to prevent freeze up. And the Pump Station 4 and Force Main Replacement Project is out to bid. Pre-bid conference was held on November 19th and was well attended. Bids are due by December 17th. EPA's latest update on the wastewater discharge permitting process indicates that the new permit is supposed to be issued in January of 2025 and will take effect in November of 2025. This gives us some extra time to address budgetary needs such as additional staffing. We should be able to handle a lot of the additional permit-related costs through the regular budget process instead of a supplemental. Director Cotter worked with the Alaska Municipal League to prepare and submit a federal community change grant application. If approved, this grant would provide approximately $18 million for borough projects. Public Works related portions of the grant, including $12 million for street paving and $1.6 million for a wastewater disinfectant study and related permitting and design. We don't know if we're going to get it yet, but we've got the application filed. Just kind of reminder to the public on anything that seems out of place or stands out. Well, if you're out walking on the docks, the harbor appreciates an extra set of eyes and ears. And harbor maintenance is working on identified breaks in the fire water line in the South Harbor and scheduling fixes as the material orders arrive. PAA and the Petersburg Police Department have partnered to bring Chris Herron with Herron Talks to Petersburg Middle School and Petersburg High School. Chris Herron is a former professional basketball player and speaker on substance use prevention and wellness advocate. After the talk, there was a resource in place for young people to reach out for help and support. So you notice the line crew was able to decorate Main Street and the community Christmas tree in advance of the tree lighting ceremony, and I think that went very, very well. Line crew is checking temperatures of distribution transformers as an indicator of overloaded services and is helping to change out some lights in the harbor. Staff was working to install conduit up at the school sign on 12th Street, and so we can feed that facility underground. Staff continue to work on swapping out older meters for new AMI meters. As a note to our customers, some existing meters are very old and inaccurate, causing low usage readings. The new meters are certified as to their accuracy, and this could mean the usage readings may appear to increase when they reflect actual power use. We have a carpet replacement project going on at an open unit at assisted living and a couple of residents up there who are moving to long-term care. They had a great Thanksgiving up there with celebrations from the residents at assisted living, and now they are starting on getting ready for Christmas. Starting plans up at assisted living on a monthly themed potluck to get residents' family members more involved in the facility. And youth basketball has come to an end with our annual All-Stars tournament with the Wrangell Wolves. Thank you to all the volunteers, coaches, referees, and book timekeepers for another great season. The Jingle and Mingle holiday event will be held at Sandy Beach on Saturday, December 7th from 4 to 6 in shelters 1 and 2. Any firewood donations can be made at the community center by December 7th at 10 a.m. Thank you for the donations. If you're interested in volunteering for this event, please contact Stephanie Payne or Julie Anderson at Parks and Rec. Stephanie is working on moving our aquatic service sewer repairs forward. It appears the cost will exceed the funds we have available for the project. We're going to be meeting soon to discuss the next steps and how we're going to handle that. I met with our federal lobbyists and several representatives from Alaska Airlines out of DC and Anchorage to discuss the possibility of remodeling our local terminal. They will be reaching out to other airport property and business owners here in Petersburg to see if they have an available space or could be willing to work with the airlines to free up space for a larger terminal. So it's kind of in their hands, but I got them contact information so they could talk to some of the other local business owners and see if there's a way to move things around. Steelhead Construction completed the elderly housing entrance repair project, leaving us with a sturdy and attractive entrance at elderly housing. And Cassie, Chris, and helpers with Mountain View Food Service helped deliver a wonderful Thanksgiving to our elderly community up at elderly housing. Just calling them out. So thank you. And that's it.
Any questions of the manager today on his report? Member Marsh.
Through the mayor, Manager Giesrecht, do we have an idea on how much the cost estimate is exceeding the funds for the sewer repair project, Parks and Rec?
I think so. And it's scary. I think we had set aside about 300,000 to 400,000 and it might be double that. So we don't really have an answer on how to pay for it yet. So clearly we're not putting it out for bid till we have a better idea on how to pay for it.
Any other questions of the manager? Okay, that brings us to unfinished business today. First item under unfinished business is ordinance 2024-22. This is an ordinance clarifying that property obtained by foreclosure in which the assembly determines to sell is exempt from sale procedures and requirements of Petersburg Municipal Code Chapters 16.12 and 16.16. This is the third and final reading of this ordinance. I would entertain a motion to approve this ordinance in its third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by member Marsh, seconded by member Lynn. Discussion. Clerk, call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2024-23 passes with a 6-0 vote unanimously in its third and final reading. Let me see here. Next item is ordinance 2024-23, an ordinance amending chapter 14.20 of the Petersburg Municipal Code, Municipal Harbors, to adopt provisions regarding inactive vessels. This is the third and final reading. Adoption of this ordinance will impose storage fees, a marine condition survey, and proof of insurance on vessels in the harbors that are deemed inactive. The Assembly unanimously approved this ordinance in first and second reading. I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance in its third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by member Stanton Gregor and seconded by member Marsh. Any discussion? I have one question for the harbor master. I see you're in the room. So Glo, does this any boat in the harbor, part of the ordinance says it has to move under its own power? So I know you see certain liveaboards in the harbor that don't move, so they're gonna be subject to this new ordinance as well.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Ordinance 2024-23 passes unanimously as well in its third and final reading. That brings us to item 15 on today's agenda, which is new business. Item A, Resolution 2024-17. This is a resolution adopting an alternative allocation method for the fiscal year 2025 Shared Fisheries Business Tax Program and certifying that this allocation method fairly represents the distribution of significant effects on fisheries business activity in FMA 18 Central Southeast area. I believe this is something that we do annually, so I'd entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Schwartz. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we agree to the methods used in this allocation program. Next item is another resolution under new business 2024-18. This is a resolution of the Borough Assembly of Petersburg, Alaska, opposing proposal 156 to be considered at the January 28th through February 9th, 2025 Alaska Board of Fisheries meetings. The Southern Southeast Regional Aquaculture Association sent a letter requesting that the Petersburg Borough Assembly adopt a resolution supporting Southeast hatcheries and opposing proposal 156. I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Newman, I believe. And Discussion. This is what Mr. Warhatch spoke to under persons to be heard on the, related to the agenda, so. No discussion, will the clerk call the roll?
Rob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we will be sending a letter. Item C, Skylark Park LLC application to purchase borough-owned lots 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 at Block A and Lot 5A at Block 221, Skylark 2 subdivision, 90-14, and Government Lot 21, Section 33, T58S, R79E, parcel ID number 01.010.254, 247, 430, 5 or 752, 760, 764, and 766 for a public benefit purpose per Petersburg Municipal Code 16.12.030. Skylark Park LLC has filed an application to purchase 7 borough-owned lots for a public benefit purpose by providing affordable housing options. The application states the lots will be used to hold single-family homes and manufactured homes built after 2023 and will be sold. Code Section 16.12.030B states the assembly may authorize disposal of borough property for less than assessed or appraised value or for other forms of consideration in addition to or in lieu of, in whole or in part, direct monetary payment to the borough. When the proposed disposal is for project meeting both of the following requirements. 1, project consists of economic development consisting of installation, construction, or operation of new or expanded industrial, manufacturing, or commercial facilities, construction of affordable housing, or construction of large residential housing developments, creating 5 or more residential lots that would address the shortage of reasonably priced housing within the borough. And 2, the assembly determines the project will result in a significant short or long-term public benefit to the Petersburg Borough. Public benefit, as used hereunder, means a project that provides one or more positive economic or non-economic impacts on the community that in the assembly's determination outweigh maximizing the direct monetary payment to the borough. Skylark LLC application was forwarded to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation. The commission held a public hearing on November 12th, 2024, and reviewed the Planning Commission staff report, which raised concerns. Ultimately, the commission unanimously recommended the assembly proceed with the disposal of the property. Per code, Manager Giesbrecht prepared a report and recommendation to the assembly, which is attached in this packet, and recommends the assembly approve the application to move forward by direct negotiated sale at 50% of the appraised value of the lots. That will be determined after negotiations if this is approved this evening, or $55,500. Please see the written report for more details. At this time, the assembly is asked to determine whether the disposal meets the requirements of Code Section 16.12.030B, and if so, determine whether the sale shall be by public sale, outcry auction, or sealed competitive bid, or by direct negotiated sale. If the disposal will be by public sale, the assembly may choose a date for the sale and a maximum price for each parcel. If the disposal will proceed by direct negotiated sale, the assembly may authorize the borough manager to commence such negotiations, the final terms of which are subject to the assembly approval through another ordinance, which has 3 readings and a public hearing at the second reading. So I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we, pardon me as I pull up my language right here, that we approve this. I move to approve Skylark Parks LLC application to purchase borough land for a public benefit purpose, to move forward in the process by direct negotiated sale and authorize manager Giesbrecht to commence such negotiations, the final terms of which are subject to assembly approval. This application meets the requirements of providing long-term public benefit as outlined by 16.12030B by developing new land into additional housing which will be available for purchase.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by member Newman, motion made by member Stanton Gregory. Discussion. No, go ahead.
All right. I do support the concept of affordable housing. And as in Petersburg, what the plan has presented in the application, I do take issue with some of the points. And I've got them enumerated. In the application, it says the utilities will be dug down to hard pan, roads going over the top, then outside that utility line, roads will be dug to at least 3 feet down, covered with shot rock, topped with, and then chip sealed. Borough code says that roads need to be dug to hard pan. Now, I'm not a civil engineer, civil construction operator, and I have very limited knowledge, but my question is, how could this be resolved? The applicant at this point doesn't seem to think that it needs to be, and I know there are a lot of roads that are not dug down to hard pan, so I think we need to resolve it. The community development staff report that was presented to the Planning Commission also noted that there were other points on which the application does not comply, and I think those need to be resolved. Second is a timeline. If the clock were to start today, and apparently it's not going to start today because of the readings that it needs to go through, where does the core permitting fall into the timeline with this? I know government works at the speed of time. So I don't know, I don't foresee that being super effective. And is that going to count against the developer for that? Anecdotally, I was told that should the muskeg be found too deep to be cost effective to dig it to hard pan, that the project would simply stop. If that were the case, what is the consequence, if any, to the borough and the developer should this situation arise? Second, another point is, how will these parcels be disposed? I know that was addressed in the ordinance as well as Mr. Giesbrecht's letter that he submitted. Have these already been sold for a public benefit purpose? It would make sense that the parcels are advertised first to the public and an equitable way of selling them established rather than the lots be earmarked first to family, friends, employees of the developer, et cetera. What are the consequences if the project does not meet the standards? If the assembly did approve this new ordinance, 16.12.030 this spring, that seemed to apply directly to this proposed development, and it would be the right thing to do to follow that ordinance. If we don't like it, that ordinance, we can go through the process to amend it at some future point. But something else to remember is that presently there is on the city or city code that we are still obligated to uphold, is that it spells out how developed parcels may be conveyed. And that one states that the utilities, including the road, need to be finished before any parcels are sold. And the application does not seem to jive with that ordinance there. So that is an area of concern. And whatever we do here today sets precedents for future transactions with other developers, other projects. I believe we need more definitive answers before we move on this. I strongly believe in private enterprise with minimal government involvement, but I also believe it needs to be orderly, honest, and effective. The borough owns much land that I would love to see in the hands of private individuals, but how the borough makes those transfers should be as equitable as possible to all the parties involved. So that's what I have for my comment presently. Thank you.
Stenberger?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So to be clear, if we vote yes on this today, and Mr. Manager, I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay. I thank you for giving me some of your time last week to walk me through some of this. Member Marsh raised a lot of very valid points that things playing out in the process. So thumbnail us and the listening public. If we voted yes today, walk us through the next chunk of months and et cetera.
What the assembly would be, through the mayor, what the assembly would be voting on today is this project moving forward? And specifically, does it meet the public benefit requirement, and how does the assembly want to sell the property, direct sale or negotiated sale? And then if it's negotiated, telling me to go negotiate. Many of the issues I put in the report that Assemblymember Marsh talked about just recently. They're not really part of this meeting, but I put them in there because I thought there might be interest among the assembly. Those are going to have to be hashed out in the next three ordinances, or the next ordinance, the next three readings of that ordinance, after I work with Skylark, if in fact that's the will of the assembly. So for example, roads to hardpan. My report that I put together, I said, roads have to be built to hardpan. A copy of that report was shared with Skylark to say, this is where I'm going with this. So if you're not interested, say something now. And so far, I've heard nothing back from them in a negative fashion to say, stop the project. So timeframe, timelines, and penalties associated with if they don't follow the rules, those are all included in a very brief way in my report that I wrote. Those are going to have to be fleshed out for the next reading of the three readings of the ordinance that the assembly has to approve, including a public hearing, before the project can kind of go the next step after that, which would be platting and sale of the property, platting, and all of the stuff. So we're still quite a bit, long ways away, but this is an important step today to say, yes, the assembly's interested in moving this forward, and yes, it meets the public benefit idea, but your concerns are well heard. That's the next step as far as the ordinance goes.
Thanks, Mr. Manager, on that. Yeah, that was the way I read that. And to summarize that, for the variety of concerns we may have around that, that's wired into the ordinance process moving forward, how to address some of those things. Because to be clear on the record, I think your report was sound and clearly illustrated to me that, at least as a starting point, it meets the criteria for public benefit. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Any other discussion? Member Lynn?
Yeah, reading the proposal, I've got a number of concerns. A couple of Member Marsh mentioned. One of them has to do with how are these going to be sold? And I totally agree that needs to be worked out, because if we're going to do it at half price, so to speak, of selling those lots, I think it ought to be available for first-time homeowners and not just, friends and so forth. And I think that needs to be part of it. I think the public needs to be aware of how we're going to sell them. The second point I'd make on this is that I've been involved now with road building and looking at standards and so forth. You would have to convince me from an engineering standpoint that you could do this without going to hardpan. Can you go down 10 feet and make it? You'd have to convince me that, because right now, we want to not plow roads, for instance, any road that's not the standard. And that's going to be a proposal, I think, coming up. If these aren't built to standard, then who's responsible for them in the long run? And I think that needs to be worked out. The next point I'd make relates to platting. And as I look at it, and my understanding is that the proposal that's laid out, the proponent would like to put it in a different way. If that be done, then there has to be a replatting of that whole area. And if you follow that back through the rest of those lots, do you take that platting to that point, or do you go all the way through? And is that going to be the responsibility of the proponent? And is that done up front? And then last, I'll go to the timeline. If you start this process now, and I believe you laid out in here 2 years, is that 2 years from the standpoint that the platting is approved? Is it 2 years from the standpoint that the Planning Commission or we approve it? I think some of those questions need to be worked out, because there's a big process involved with this. At any rate, I'll lay that out as my concerns up front that I think need to be worked on and the public needs to be aware of. Thank you.
The other discussion? Member Schwartz?
Well, a lot of people have talked to me about this too, and I agree with you, Bob. It's not for speculators to buy land. It's for first-time homeowners. And there's a lot of concerns that Donna have, that you have, and they need to get worked out. And But this is the first step. We gotta get this ball rolling, and then from here on out, those things get fleshed out, like you said. So if there's a 2-year timeline from right now, better get going. At least start moving somewhere. That's all I have.
Any other input? Member Marsh.
I realize in the community, there is a sense of urgency that the borough is the assembly is standing in the way of development. But I think to do this, as I mentioned before, is an orderly, methodical process is going to benefit the residents of this town, first-time homeowners, however we do this, it's going to benefit the town. And one of these things is, oh, we flush it out later. It's frustrating to me because once we sell it, our hands are somewhat tied. We've said, okay, we're going to go through with this, but so the Burrell Skylark Park puts out the money, they pay, whatever we set, or Manager Giesbrecht negotiates with them. And once that's done, and once it's signed on the dotted line and funds exchanged hands, we are limited, I believe, in what we can do. So I think it would behoove us to get some of these answers ironed out before we commit ourselves to such a large thing. This is a massive project. And it takes courage to say they want to put this much on the line for Skylark Park. And I would wish them every success, but I think we need to do it prudently, not just for the here and now, but for, long after and everybody in this room is long gone. That neighborhood probably will still be standing. So I think we need to proceed with caution.
Well, we started this over a year ago. And I was talking with people about it as I celebrated Christmas in my home with my children and my grandchildren. And I was thinking about the number of young people that were working 40 to 60 hours a week that couldn't afford homes. That weighed on me pretty heavily. And this started last October. Before that, I mean, we've been talking about affordable housing for years. And for this assembly, it started over a year ago. So it's already been a year, over a year. And I agree with Donna that we need to make sure it's done right. But I really believe that we need to start the process, which apparently I think we should start it right now. And then we've got 3 readings to approve or disapprove. So that's my input.
I'll comment at the end here. I mean, I agree there are concerns with the way where the roads are going to be built, if they're going to be excavated the hard pan, but I think it's important to approve this today, let the manager start negotiating with Skylark Park LLC and make it just to sell the land, direct sale. And then through the next ordinance, the 3 readings of that ordinance, adjust things, say it has to be excavated a hard pan. And if Skylark LLC, in my understanding, isn't agreeable to do that, then the deal fails. Is that my understanding correct, Manager Giesbrecht?
You can almost look at this ordinance that we're talking about as a contract of sale. In a sense, it needs to outline all of the issues that the assembly have, as well as what Skylark may have as well. In other words, concerns they have. And that's what has to be approved by the assembly.
Then also, it goes back to the planning and zoning after that.
Plating is done after that.
Yeah.
And that goes back to P and Z where it's designed out and the roads are put in, or on paper put in, and the size of the lots are put in. And the P and Z may have issues in addition to what the assembly has. So the assembly could approve this with the 3 readings of an ordinance, and go back to P and Z could say, well, now that it's coming to plating, we want some of these other things done. So in other words, the road has to be in a different spot. So we're still quite a ways away from it being construction, digging up dirt up there.
So after planning and zoning gets it if we pass the ordinance, Does it ever come back to the assembly or that's it?
Um,
As far as,
that's still an open, currently plating is approved by P and Z and does not come back to the assembly. But, this project is big enough. I don't know if there's a way to say that it can come back to the assembly. At this point, it goes to P and Z and it ends there. So this reading of this ordinance and what goes into that is gonna be a pretty important part for the assembly.
so you're looking at months and months. I mean, if the first reading is at the next meeting and
I
second
think
meeting
you're
is
looking at
Jan-
spring or later.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
So I guess what I'm
hate to
trying to-
be,
What I'm trying to get at is there's gonna be many more opportunities for public input and assembly input. And so I think, I agree with, Assemblymember Schwartz. We've been talking about this for a while. I agree with the motion we're discussing. And then, it'd be nice to have all the, i's dotted and t's crossed before we start, but that would probably take longer than the process we're gonna go through. And maybe it would detour the proponents of this to, move forward. So I think affordable housing is something we need to try to, push for in this community. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Donna, Mark,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, this application to negotiate with the manager, passes with a 5-1 vote with member Marsh opposed. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is item D. Alaska Airlines Essential Air Service Letter of Support. Alaska Airlines has proposed to provide essential air service for Cordova, Gustavus, Petersburg, Wrangell, and Yakutat from May 2025 through April 2027. Attached is a draft letter of support for the Assembly's consideration. I'd entertain a motion to support this letter asking for essential air service.
Second.
Motion been made by member Newman, seconded by member Schwartz. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sending a letter of support for essential air service. Item E, under new business, appointment to the Southeast Alaska Power Agency Board of Directors for 2025 of one voting member and one alternate member. I would entertain a motion to appoint Bob Lynn as the voting member and the Utility Director Carl Hagerman as the alternate for the
So moved.
following year. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, item 16, communications. There are two communications listed on today's assembly packet. And there's one more that was sent by Mrs. Heather O'Neill, and I would like that added to the next agenda. Like, I don't know when we received it, but it is not on today's agenda. We don't read the communications as a habit, but that can be done if there's a particular one people want read. So next item is 17, unless there's any other communications people want to talk about. Okay, item 17, assembly discussion items. Assembly member comments. Are there any comments by assembly members today?
I think, Power and Light was out till 2:30 in the morning getting power back for people out the road, so hats off to those guys.
So, on that note, Manager Giesbrecht, is there, or Utility Director Hagerman, is there an update on the situation? Was it just a power pole came down or?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the recognition. The crew worked very hard yesterday, basically 11 hours out in that storm, to get power back going to the folks on the south end of the island. We had an issue with snow and ice loading on the distribution line. And a pole that broke was weaker than we thought, evidently, because that heavy load did bring it down. And unfortunately, it was a bad spot. in the line. That's right where the line crosses the highway. So we had lines on the ground on the highway, resulting in a road closure for many hours. Crew did a fantastic job. We had operators out there flagging for the line crew. Those guys were working very hard. We had another operator at standby at the plant just to help coordinate any issues with the crew in the field and Tyee hydro project. So it was all hands on deck and they did great. And I just want to say, I really appreciate the patience and cooperation of our customers out there. I know that was for Petersburg, that was a long outage, about 11 hours. But you know, that there wasn't any way to do it any faster. That was just a big job, very, very complicated and involved pole replacement and getting those lines back up in the air. So thanks to our customers for that.
Great recognition. Member Lynn?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up on that. Yeah, I've had 3 messages since I come to town thanking your crew for their work they did out there, along with a couple pictures. Looks to me like there was at least 2 inches of ice on those lines, so they had to have been very, very heavy. So, and the folks out there are very appreciative, I can assure you from the calls I've been getting on it. Thank the crew.
Just to add to that, I guess we could be thankful it was above freezing. You know, 11 hours without heat below freezing would have been horrible. Any recognitions other than the one we just had? Assembly or the staff have any recognitions? Seeing none, I'd entertain, Member Hankin or Mr. Hankin.
Kind of in that same vein, I'd like to recognize the volunteers of the fire department and our partners, both within the borough and with state troopers and DOT. We had several responses over the weekend, including search and rescue, some complicated medevacs where DOT was constantly having to keep that road clear so that planes can come in. And then we had a couple vehicle accidents as well. We had great response from everyone involved, so thank you to them as well.
Okay, perfect. If there are no other recognitions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 117.